with us this last Sunday of the month of November 2016. This is Checkpoint. Our sign language interpreter tonight is William Silla, and I am Yvonne Okwara Matole. Apologies tonight for Honorable Jacoyo Midiwo, who is stuck in Eldoret as his plane that was due to land at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport has been diverted due to closure of the runway because of an aircraft that developed mechanical trouble on the runway. So all departures and incoming flights into JKIA Nairobi have been halted. He will definitely join us on phone. That's Deputy Minority Leader Jacoyo Midiwo. And live in studio, we will have the Majority Leader, Honorable Aden Duale, to speak about corruption in the country and what is the way forward. Keep your comments and questions coming in. The hashtag is Checkpoint at KTN News at Yvonne Okwara. If you prefer to send us a text message, the number is 22155. But first, let's have the top stories on our bulletin tonight. Tension remains high in Lomelo along the Pokot-Turkana border following the killing of 14 people. The killings occurred in what is said to be a revenge mission just hours after a peace meeting called between Pokot and Turkana elders. Many homesteads remain deserted, with local leaders claiming several people remain unaccounted for, while some of those who are wounded are yet to get specialized treatment. One of them is a 14-year-old boy who lost 5 members of his family during the attack.
More than 24 hours after the attack on Puspion village in Tiati, and 14-year-old Mosop Alto Dong has some hope for medical treatment as he is brought to the Chemolingot Sub-County Hospital in Tiati. He was shot through his arm and a bullet is still lodged in his backside. He lost 5 brothers in the attack. His parents remain unaccounted for.
Watoto wamepotea, kuna wamama wamepotea, kuna watu hawajaweza kukuja. Leo tulirikava watatu.
His face perhaps illustrating the pain of many families here. Many homes remain deserted.
Hali ya wasiwasi ni mwingi. Watu wamehama kuelekea upande wa Nadome, kuelekea upande wa Kapau, kuelekea upande wa Tiati. Lakini naomba wakaaji ya pande hii warejeshe tena ili amani tulio nayo.
It all started on Tuesday last week when Pokot raiders raided Suguta area and made away with 163 goats.
Tukaweza kurikava kunyang'anya hawa wakora wale waliiba mbuzi kutoka Barakoi na ni 4 walichapwa na tukanyang'anya mbuzi yote.
On Thursday, Pokot elders called a peace meeting undertaking to return the goats which were recovered to the Turkana side on Saturday morning. But the meeting would end on a sour note when 3 people were killed. But worse was yet to come. On Saturday morning, in what is said to be a revenge attack, Turkana raiders attacked Puspion village, killing 8 children, 3 adults, and making away with goats and cattle.
Cattle is about 1,900. Approximation of the goats, about 740.
The raiders are said to be headed towards Kamuke in Turkana East.
Sisi wa Pokot tunataka amani, tunataka tuishi na wenzetu wa Turkana na kwa amani. Na tunataka tuambie serikali waturudishie hizo ng'ombe, waturudishie hizo mbuzi.
Nataka kuambia watu wa Pokot ya hii area ya Kapedo, Lomelo na Dome, tudumisha amani yetu, turudishe tena.
Pokot and Turkana communities have enjoyed some relative peace in the last few months, and elders want the government to intervene to ensure peace returns. Rita Tinina, KTN News.
Police in western Uganda have arrested the king of Rwenzururu over clashes between officers and militia, which have left at least 55 people dead. Charles Wesley Mumbere is accused of inciting violence after militiamen reportedly attacked a police post in his hometown of Kasese. Security officers stormed his palace amid claims he was harboring fighters. The king has denied any involvement. At least 14 police officers and 41 militants have died in the clashes. A Ugandan government spokesman accused the militia of seeking to break away from Uganda. Police spokesman Andrew Felix Kawesi said the attackers were fighting to create a new republic on the border with the Democratic Republic of Congo. Charles Wesley Mumbere has denied any connection with the militia. His Bakonza community on the border with the Democratic Republic of Congo has long been at loggerheads with the dominant Toro Kingdom in the region. Years of clashes ended in 1982 with an agreement for more local autonomy, and President Yoweri Museveni officially recognized the kingdom in the year 2009, but tensions have continued to simmer in that region. We'll continue to keep you updated here on KTN News. Let's come back home to the country now. It is emerging that the IEBC commissioners, led by Chairman Isaac Hassan, will have to stay a little longer in office than was earlier anticipated. After the IEBC selection panel re-advertised the position of chair, it is expected the fresh recruitment process will take over 1 month. And as Chris Thairu reports, the earliest Kenyans can expect to have new IEBC commissioners will be mid-January next year.
With the IEBC selection panel expected to kick off the interviews of 36 applicants for the position of commissioners Thursday morning, all eyes will be on the panel and how they will conduct the interviews. This because political players have already started to criticize the team following their decision to re-advertise the position of chairperson despite having shortlisted 5 applicants.
Why are you telling us you have to repeat the whole process all over again? We have wasted time. We have wasted resources. If this panel cannot perform, then maybe we should disband the panel and start the process completely afresh.
Those who had been shortlisted for the position are devolution expert Dr. Mutaha Kangu, Roslyn Odhiambo Odede, who was a member of the now defunct Judges and Magistrates Vetting Board, and former Truth, Justice and Reconciliation Commissioner Margaret Wamboi Ngogi. Others are advocates David Kiprop Malakwen and David Muki Mereka. The panel re-advertised the chairperson's position on grounds that queries had arisen on the suitability of the shortlisted pool following background check.
Na kama wewe uko na njama ya kuchelewesha tume mpya ya IEBC kwa sababu ya njama ya mchezo unataka kucheza na uchaguzi ujao, be very careful. Kwa sababu Wakenya hawatakubali mchezo wowote kufanyika kwa uchaguzi wa mwaka ujao.
This means that the Isaac Hassan-led team will continue to be in office a little longer, since it will take at least a month to finalize the process of recruiting new commissioners. This going against the wishes of opposition leaders who want the commissioners hounded out of office.
IEBC should stall every exercise that is currently being undertaken in regard to the Elections Laws Amendment Act 2016 until the new commissioners have been duly appointed.
IEBC is avoiding to engage the major coalitions and political parties, particularly CORD, so that it can have a free hand in messing up with the preparation and conduct of the next general elections.
CORD can make all the noise they want, and what CORD is trying to do is that they know they have lost the general election. And we, the Jubilee Coalition, I want to say it very categorically, the postponement of the general election is not visible.
But speaking in Nakuru County, Deputy President William Ruto took a swipe at those proposing that the elections date be changed from August to December, given that the IEBC Secretariat is already behind the schedule by 3 months.
Wale wanaopiga makelele ati wanataka kusongesha sijui uchaguzi mbele ni kwa sababu wamepatikana hawajajipanga na hawajui wataenda wapi. Na hiyo ni shauri yao. Kila mtu ajipange. Si namna hiyo?
Come Monday afternoon, the Public Procurement Review Board is expected to rule on whether or not the law was followed to the letter when the IEBC awarded Al Gharir Printing Company from Dubai a tender to print ballot papers. Pearl Media Printing Company from South Africa had protested that the tendering process was not above board. If the review board rules that the law was not followed, then IEBC will have no option but repeat the whole process, which only means more delays in their timelines. Chris Dairu, KTN News.
Kilifi Governor Amason Kingi will face the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission tomorrow to explain the alleged loss of 51 million shillings from the county coffers. Kingi is now battling what may be his toughest challenge yet in his 9 years in politics. And as Francis Ontomwa now reports, the county chief has said he has no intentions whatsoever to step down.
Since the dragon corruption found its way down at the southern tip of Kenya, Kilifi County, this man, Amason Jeffa Kingi, has firmly remained a man under the gun, the dragon now threatening to run away with his political career. The Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, EACC, now wants him to open up on what he knows Monday.
I am the one who walked into EACC and told them there's this matter, kindly move in to investigate. And the procedure is the complainant is the first person to make a statement.
Last Friday, Kingi took to court some 5 companies in the 51 million shilling scandal, and this now kickstarts civil proceedings, not just on the companies, but also its directors and the banks involved. The county has at the same time obtained court orders to freeze the company's bank accounts. And even as the matter spins around fast and furious, stepping aside is not in the tray of the advocates' options.
If fighting corruption is a crime which attracts the penalty of stepping aside, then I will. But if fighting corruption is a virtue, then I'm not stepping aside.
Reports say EACC is training eyes on a number of facets in the saga. Mtwapa Bus Parkland Patches sticking out as one case in point where budgetary allocations are said to have been inflated. National Assembly Majority Leader Aden Duale has particularly stayed on this subject, but Kingi, as he says, plays his politics on a higher pedestal.
Don't make a mistake of comparing me with Duale. Duale reacts on rumors, Kingi reacts on facts.
Even with such, not so many residents of Kilifi are buying the whole story.
Wakenya wanasesewa sana, maana sasa wakisema hizi pesa tunabuatilia na zingine tumeblock isitoke. Kumbe mnajua zile zingine zilitoka vipi? Na yule alitoa zile za mwanzo, mbona abuatiliwe mkamusika? Alitoa bila saini yoyote.
Kingi, who has fought off perception that he knew a thing or two about the happenings way before, says he will recover the lost money. The county chief is however left to battle alone in the ring, his deputy Kenneth Kemto appearing to lead an onslaught in the opposite direction. Not all friends have run away though.
Nataka nimwambie Mheshimiwa Duale, na ni mara ya pili leo nikimuonya Mheshimiwa Duale ya kwamba wewe kama umetumwa na kama kweli unayosema una ushahidi, katika taifa letu kuna taasisi husika.
The Kilifi scam points to what appears an inside job that has county officials and CBK at the center of the mess. A dozen county officials are still serving suspension. There is growing public displeasure regarding the millions of shillings that were lost here in Kilifi. And even as the back and forth continues, pressure remains on EACC to give credible answers as regards this matter. Francis Ontomwa, KTN News, Kilifi.
And the war of words continues. ODM leaders have told of Majority Leader Aden Duale that over claims that CORD leader Raila Odinga is using ODM governors to fund his campaigns. The leader spoke in Homa Bay during the memorial of former Homa Bay Senator Otieno Kajwang. CORD leader Raila Odinga asked Kenyans to vote out the Jubilee administration next year for allegedly leading the country to the dogs.
ODM leaders gathered at the home of the former Homa Bay Senator, the late Otieno Kajwang, remembering a man who vehemently defended the party and its leader, Raila Odinga, within and without parliament, even earning the nickname Mapambano. And they took the opportunity to tell of Majority Leader Aden Duale.
I want to urge Duale to do us one favor. It appears before he speaks, he engages his mouth before he engages his brain. The conventional rule dictates that before you engage your mouth, first of all you engage your brain so that the brain tells the mouth what to say. Duale should not talk like someone who has just walked out of Madare Hospital. Duale should talk as the leader of majority. And I want to tell Duale that no Kenyan believes him. When he said that he was going to name the Al-Shabaab and the perpetrators of Al-Shabaab, Kenya is still waiting up to today.
Nataka ambia Duale ya kwamba Raila sio alika yako. Mimi ndio alika yako, pambana na mimi wewe.
Mr. Duale, nothing you say will make us forget that you have stolen, including from pregnant mothers and young children.
Among other allegations, Duale had recently claimed that ODM-allied governors have been using county money to sponsor Raila's rallies across the country.
Hapa ni mbele yangu aiwekwe William Ruto. Apigiwe mahesabu na mimi nipigiwe mahesabu. Mimi niulizwe hii shati nimevaa nimenunua wapi? Na yeye aulizwe hiyo shati aliyovaa amenunua nini? Wapi?
Raila, who spoke in his native Dholuo, told the people of Homa Bay that this time they will ensure that the election is free and fair. He reiterated that the Jubilee government is too corrupt to be allowed another term in office. Of course, strong statements from the members of the Orange team, a clear indication that the now hot debate on corruption might dominate the country as we head towards the general election. Rashid Ronald, KTN News, in the county of Homa Bay.
Majority Leader Aden Duale is here with us, and we will talk more about some of those statements, but also generally on the war on corruption and where we stand as a country. Now, the debate on whether Kenyans in the diaspora will vote in the 2017 elections has been ongoing for a long time. Now, despite a court order ruling that Kenyans in the diaspora must be allowed to vote, it remains unclear if that will happen at all. Tonight on Spotlight 2017, our reporter Murimi Mwangi delves into what is at stake in the diaspora vote and interrogates the practicability of Kenyans abroad voting in next year's polls.
The clamor for Kenyans in the diaspora to actively participate in the country's democratic processes has been a long and strenuous one that fiercely gained momentum in the run-up to the 2010 constitution referendum, culminating in protracted court battles.
If you saw the last election, Uhuru was declared president because of a difference of 8,000 votes. The question is, what about 3 million?
The main reason why the two major coalitions are not concerned about diaspora voting is because neither of them is sure they have a majority of those voters. Because you can't also buy the diaspora voters with 50 bob, 20 bob. Perhaps that's the main true reason why we are not supporting diaspora voting.
In June last year, the Supreme Court reaffirmed a decision of the Court of Appeal directing the country's electoral agency, IEBC, to undertake a progressive registration of Kenyans in the diaspora ahead of the 2017 polls. But with only 253 days to the August 8th elections, and with the IEBC yet to get new commissioners, will the IEBC still manage to register Kenyans in the diaspora?
It is not tenable. You can see the corruption that is going on. Where will they get that money? Where will they get that money from? Let us talk of things that are applicable, not things that will make us buy time and people start running here and there saying the votes have been stolen.
I think it's times that Kenyans realize the Constitution, the new Constitution, the preamble talks of the power being to the people. It's not the power with the elites. And the people include the diaspora. So it's our inalienable. Like any other Kenyans, we need to be facilitated to vote. We're looking at the proposals that have been made.
The diaspora registration, which was slated for February, March, might have to be brought forward as early as January this year, if we have to fit within that particular time frame.
The number of Kenyans in the diaspora eligible to vote in 2017 is estimated at 3 million. Of these, the Diaspora Alliance is targeting about 1 million. This even as the IEBC directed that only countries with at least 3,000 Kenyans eligible to vote will be included in the diaspora plans. But even then, Kenyans in the diaspora will only participate in the presidential elections. However, this will only happen if the IEBC gets its full 40 billion shillings budget, of which 130 million has been set aside for the registration of voters in the diaspora. Some analysts are skeptical about the figure, citing the budgetary constraints that the IEBC has been facing in the past.
On the diaspora budget, I don't think we're going to change much with respect to that, because we had already planned for it. But the overall changes to the budget is with respect to the process of registration and verification of the register, and also the increase in the number of polling stations.
Diaspora themselves may not even mind chipping in. We have indicated officially to IBC that some of our members who have said we'll avail our resources to assist IBC. If vehicles are required, we'll avail, maybe even on terms that are lower than what they would hire them for back at home. So we need to see the figures. There are options of making the voting system, the logistics and all that more cost effective.
Good job. Another headache likely to be nagging the IEBC is the different time zones. Polling stations open at 6 a.m. Kenyan time, and the IEBC insists that the Kenyan timing has to be strictly adhered to, even for Kenyans in the diaspora. That would mean that a polling station, say at the Kenyan Embassy in Washington, D.C., would have to open at 10 p.m., while Kenyans in London would have to go to the polls at 3 in the morning.
Let us do things which are practical. Let us not just say things for the sake of saying. Let us say things which are applicable, which are practical, things that can be attainable.
How come other countries are already doing it? Kenya even did voting elections here for South Sudan during the referendum. So how come those other countries are able to do it in our country and we are giving excuses?
What we have to do is to have some sense of agility to adjust to the new situation and move forward. As the Commission is doing that, we also expect that other stakeholders are going to adjust to that new reality, so that we, as early as January this year, we are all on the same page in terms of how we want to run the next election.
Well, the courts have given the IEBC the go-ahead to register Kenyans in the diaspora. The practicability of their participation in the 2017 polls will largely be determined by availability of funds, including IEBC's ambitious overall budget of over 40 billion shillings. Muremi Mwangi, KTN News in Nairobi.
Now we're going to have that discussion today, so please remember to keep your comments coming in as we discuss this issue. With me today is Honorable Aden Duale. Also joining us on phone is Honorable Jakoyo Midiwo, who sadly could not be with us for this discussion today due to unavoidable circumstances. But before we begin the discussion, I'd like us to listen to what Honorable Aden Duale himself has had to say on this issue. Take a listen.
Raila Odinga must speak emphatically about the corruption facing Mombasa County, where there are 22 fictitious accounts. He must face and tell us emphatically his position about the 1.4 billion loss in Kilifi County. Those are his greatest defenders. He must emphatically tell us about the 3.2 billion loss in Nairobi County, and so if you read the audit report, Migori, Siaya, Kakamega.
And he is with me tonight. Thank you very much for making the time to be with us.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you. So let's start from there. The claim that Raila Odinga is, engaged in double speak, and you went as far as, and I believe we'll have that clip as well, to allege that Raila Odinga is indeed a driver of corruption by quote-unquote extorting governors. Do you want to expound a little bit more on that?
Yes. Yvonne, before I even go there, allow me, today was the memorial service for my late friend, Senator Otieno Kajwang. But you remember, you saw it on all the media houses. It's been turned into defending Baba against me. I mean, majority of those members of parliament were not in last parliament. I was an ODM member. I participated in the fundraising of Raila Odinga in 2007. So I know Raila Odinga. They're all hanging from his coat. They want to survive. The God is Wangas. These are, sycophants. They should be very, very sober. Castigating me, talking about, Madare Hospital. I wish them well. Those are young thugs. And imagine the kind of intolerance level in ODM. And that's why key leaders like myself and Honorable William Ruto at one stage had to leave. But let me come to the subject matter. And this is a matter that is developing. Honorable Raila Odinga has been portraying himself as a crusader against graft, anti-graft Caesar. But every time when corruption is raised by the Auditor General, by other institutions, Raila Odinga will call the first press conference at Capitol Hill. But Raila Odinga cannot be a leader with the double standards. Because if you read the current audit report, Mombasa, adversely mentioned, Kilifi, and I want to challenge Honorable Kingi that I am the one who gave the media the pass pack that he bought with he bought with 308 million shilling. 9 acres, 380 million, all of them again within 1 week. Serious money laundering took place in that account of that law firm or the owner of the land. Over 5 different farms, not related, received different portions of that money. That's a serious money laundering. And EACC is investigating. I have written to the central bank and to the money laundering agency. So Raila Odinga comes and says, no, that is a draft audit report. This is the same Raila Odinga who asked P.S. Muraguri and Minister Cleopas Mailu to step aside and be sacked on a mere audit report, just like the one of Kilifi and Kakamega and Mombasa. The same Honorable Raila Odinga is a man who used to say from the rooftops every day, the buck stops with Uhuru Kenyatta. Now again, when it comes to Kilifi County, Mombasa County, is Raila Odinga, again a different Raila Odinga who says, no, let's give the institutions mandated by the Constitution in the war against corruption, EACC, Auditor General, DPP, take their course. So to me, Raila Odinga now is behaving like a pendulum.
All right.
We don't know which side of the war on graft is. The second, more fundamental.
Yeah.
They don't need to turn Honorable Otieno Kajwang's memorial into bashing Honorable Duale. I have given them the first dose of 380 million fraudulently bought land in Kilifi. I am going to give and tell the country how Honorable Raila Odinga was funded by ODM governors. If they wait, they should relax. Right now they're very emotional, they're very abusive. They can do as many rallies as possible.
So you're saying...
And for the information, I left ODM because of that kind of intolerance.
All right.
I went to another party and won my seat.
Okay, allow me to ask. So you're saying you've got proof or evidence of Raila sort of extorting governors?
Let me tell you, in the last 3 years, Honorable Raila Odinga, all his political activities were funded by respective governors. The media houses at one time quoted the governor of Siaya, Rasanga, saying, Honorable Raila Odinga, you must give us direct nomination because we have been funding your activities. So if they give us a minute, we will bring evidence to show that Raila Odinga during the day claims to protect devolution.
And this is
And
evidence
at night,
you have?
And at night, Raila Odinga is hosted by governors through corrupt money that they got it from their counties.
Okay, let's
they should wait for it.
All right, let's hear from Honorable Jakoya Midiwo, who's joining us on phone. And I can see a number of ODM leaders also want to join in on phone on this one. But Honorable Midiwo, would you like to respond to Honorable Duale's statements? He's saying there's double speak from Raila Odinga, saying that he is now defending Kingi rather than asking him to, you know, accept his role, accept his responsibility and step aside.
Well, I'm not sure I want to really respond to Honorable Duale. I think Duale is talking dangerously. You know, Yvonne, I couldn't make it to the studio because of the accident at the main airport. So we have been forced to land at Eldoret. So we are stuck at the Eldoret airport. But I thought the kind of evidence Duale is talking about, Duale and Uhuru and Ruto control state security. Why haven't they arrested King? It's the same Duale who is talking about Raila the last couple of days, who said he would take Waiguru to court. Has Duale been to court to take Waiguru? Really, these people are trying to divert attention. And the attention, the real issue is, in less than, a little less than 24 months ago, we lost 283 billion shillings in Eurobond. The NYS is not known. The health, now the health money, the 5.3 billion, is gone. And the thieves, the people who are looting, are all the way in State House. They are the president's people. And Duale knows, you know, he cannot talk about Kingi without talking about the president and his family.
All right. Allow me to interject, sir, and just ask you this, though. In the same way, and this is Honorable Duale's contention, the same way you say the buck stops with President Uhuru Kenyatta, would you not say that the buck stops with the governor, who is in essence the chief of the county? Should he not step aside with the same way you're asking of Uhuru Kenyatta?
The back, I have not personally asked Uhuru to step aside, but I know the back stops with the governor. The governor cannot run away from graft. And you know, I, for one, have been talking about corruption in county government. But Kingi called and investigate. Uhuru, on the other hand, said he is helpless. It is the same agency that Kingi called that the president says he cannot control. You know, why the double speak from Duale and Mr. William Ruto? The president told Kenyans, he looked Kenyans in the eye and said he is helpless. Governor Kingi said there is theft and please come and investigate. I mean, why can't you give the devil his due? Really?
All right. I'd like to, just while we have you on the line, to just ask you about what's been happening in the counties. The Auditor General has released reports, I believe, of audit reports of all the counties. And, you know, there's some damning allegations from what's happening in the counties. Now, some would say we've not seen the same fervor from Raila Odinga and from ODM and the CORD coalition in terms of even just having intolerance to corruption within the party.
Well, Raila said up to including yesterday that corruption is corruption. There is no baptismal name for corruption in the county and the national government. So everybody who is culpable must take the blame. And the Raila that I know is one that condones no corruption. So the attempt by Duale and Jubilee to run away from the real issues. It's really, Kenyans are not foolish. What they are saying, if there is a corrupt governor, like Duale knows, for example, that the governor of Machakos, Mutua, has even snubbed the Senate committee. He has refused to appear. This here is a governor who is accused of graft. He is their friend.
Okay, all right. That's about Machakos governor. There's something that I want to show here on screen for our viewers. Unfortunately, you can't see it. But in as much as you're mentioning corruption at that level, there's also allegations of corruption at the various counties. Kilifi, suspected loss of it's now what we're hearing, 1 billion shillings. And if we can just call up some of those graphics, and our viewers will follow this with me on screen. In Homa Bay County, 12 million shillings for 2 projects, work not done. Kisumu County, 2.77 million shillings for litter bins, still lying idle in the store. A lot of this sounds quite familiar to some of the accusations we hear from the national government. Even in Garissa County, 24 million shillings paid to officers on seminars, no documentation. So this is something that we can definitely see that's happening on both ends. Has ODM demonstrated in one way or another that corruption within its ranks is not tolerated? For example, have governors been summoned to ODM House, to Orange House, to be queried on these issues?
Well, the audit report you're talking about is a couple of days old,
Yeah.
number one. So if you're talking about summoning, we are a party in opposition. It is not our duty. The state security is owned by Duale and Uhuru Kenyatta. They own the state security. You don't even need summoning. You don't need us to help you. I am happy that Duale recognizes that it is only Raila who can talk about graft. That we are happy about because that's what he has just said. We are saying they don't need us to tell them to fight graft. All Honorable Duale needs to do as soon as he steps out of the studio is to call his friends at EACC. Say the governor of Kilifi, the governor of Machakos, the governor of Garissa has done ABCD. What are you doing about it?
Okay.
That guy sitting with you in the studio has a lot of power. And they are just misusing it. They have every opportunity to do right for this country.
All right, okay.
Yvonne,
yes.
let me say this, and this is where we are where we differ with CORD.
Right.
President Uhuru Kenyatta has shown both in action and in spirit his war against corruption. Since he came into power, more than 7 ministers, some of them very, very close friends, were shown the door on mere allegation of corruption. A host of PSS, a host of CEOs, even the Deputy President Chief of Staff was sacked on a mere allegation. We have shown that. A number of governors from the Jubilee coalition were either their impeachment was brought to the House, were taken to EACC, and at no given time did the leadership of Jubilee said anything, both in action and word, in support of those governors. Let me finish. Even when our own colleagues, our senior members, were taken to court on hate speech, the likes of, Moses Kuria, Y22, and many others, we never visited them in Pangani cells. That shows the respect we have for the rule of law. But as Jubilee, let me finish. But you look at what happened. When George Aladwa made a serious statement, a hate speech, Raila Odinga escorted him to Kilimani police station. When Modama and his cohort and Junet were taken on a serious ethnic, laced hate speech, Raila Odinga was at Pangani police station. The next time was when a number of CORD governors were mentioned, not only in this year's audit report, even in last year's audit report, were mentioned. Raila Odinga takes a flight, goes to Balindi, and have Joho and Kingi on his side and defends them and says, no, on this one, it's an audit query. On this one, the EACC must investigate. But when it comes to the other side, and the paradox that Kenyans don't want to know is that Raila Odinga is a beneficiary of what is going on in those counties.
All right, you've been saying that.
And mark my word, mark my word, mark my word. All those governors, Mombasa, Kilifi, Turkana, Kakamega, all those governors will get direct nomination when it comes to the primaries in ODM.
All right, allow me to ask this because you've mentioned this a number of times. Are you willing to give us any proof? Is this something that you are going to take to the authorities?
I took the 308 million that made EACC invite Amason Kingi I gave it out. It's an exclusive document.
All right.
So
in as much as...
I want to give a free advice to Raila Odinga and all the guys, all his attack dogs who want to attack Duale and that they have to live with me for the long haul. Because corruption is corruption.
Okay.
Whether it's by the national government, by the county government, by ODM governors, by court governors, corruption is corruption. Number two and more fundamental, if I allow you.
Allow me to put in a question.
Number two and more fundamental.
Yeah.
You know, there's real corruption and there is a perception propaganda corruption. You know, you look at, we need to be very honest. And myself, if court has any iota of corruption on Honorable Duale, please say it. Who is talking about corruption in the top leadership? Musalia Mudavadi. Musalia Mudavadi is still not cleared his head on the Anglo-ism and the Golden Back. Who is making noise is Honorable Moses Wetangula, involved in the Tokyo scandal. He's the only foreign minister in our country who was impeached. You look at Honorable Raila Odinga, the last government when he was the prime minister, the May scandal, the Triton. All these were the Kazi kwa vijana.
Understood. So allow me to move this conversation, please,
let's not politicize it.
But that's what it seems to be now, with the accusations between both sides. So this is court.
No, it's court.
This is not Jubilee.
I have given the first document in a press conference. Let them wait for me.
All right. So let's talk a little bit also about, supporting persons who are alleged to be corrupt, because many famously remember the spirited defense that came from no less than State House for Anne Waiguru when she was cabinet secretary. We saw the turnaround later, but many pointed to the same thing. In addition to that, there's also the Afia House scandal, also mere audit reports, which put persons who were close to the president's family. In addition, Farouk Kibet now says he actually did receive 1.5 million shillings, and that in fact it came from Josephine Kafura. He says he doesn't know her, but somehow there was an RTGS transfer of money from her account to his. Farouk Kibet is the deputy president's aide. So it also seems like on the other side. Yeah.
The position of State House, all of us, from the president to top Jubilee leadership, even on Anne Waiguru, was that initially let the facts be known. Let the Public Accounts Committee, let EACC...
Isn't that the same thing Raila Odinga is saying about Kilifi?
Let the EACC, when the facts came very open, the president shown Anne Waiguru the door. He never defended her. He said, let investigation take its course. The deputy president is on record. He has never defended Farouk Kibet. He has never defended any person mentioned in NYS. That is what we expect, the same narrative from Raila Amolo Odinga.
All right,
Raila
let me ask
Amolo
you
Odinga.
this.
Secondly, who said that when I joined politics, my family members, my family used to run serious business, including a chain of hotels called Nomad. So when I joined politics, they closed. The president's family, there's nowhere in the constitution that says the president's family cannot do business. The president's family and sisters can do business. But if that business is fraudulent, then that is culpable. But nowhere is written. The president, the president became a president when his family had a huge business investment in our country.
Absolutely, and I think that
but
was
what we're asking our colleagues is, do not defend the perpetrators of corruption. Give due process to law. But Raila Odinga and his troops called a press conference. And they said Muraguri and Mailu must leave office. We expect him to speak the same narrative when it comes to his government.
Great. So should Muraguri and Mailu leave office, step aside as well, while the investigations are conducted?
No. Once the facts come out very clearly, EACC will give their verdict in 3 weeks' time, as they promised the people of Kenya. The moment that comes out clearly, whoever, whether it's Mailu or Muraguri, they will follow what happened to their colleagues last year early.
There's calls for Farouk Kibet and Senator Kipchumba Murkomen to appear before the PAC. What do you think about that?
Number one, let me speak for Senator Murkomen, and let me speak from what the standing orders say. The Public Accounts Committee, for them to get the views of Honorable Senator Murkomen. For you to call a member of another house, the standing orders provide that a motion must be brought to the National Assembly. Once it's approved, then he is invited. But for me, I'll ask Honorable Murkomen, notwithstanding the standing order, to present his evidence. The same for Farouk Kibet, because there's nothing we're hiding. There's nothing we're hiding. Okay. We want each and everyone. You know, when I was mentioning NYS, yes, I told Adan Haraki, and I was said on TV tonight, Adan Haraki comes from my constituency. I called him on phone and I told him, you are being put in a serious corruption scandal. Be very careful. He refused to listen to me. He listened to Anne Waiguru. Where is he today? He's on the run. He's on the run. That is where I stand myself. And the Jubilee Coalition, if you look at Mzee Kenyatta's government, if you look at Moi's government, if you look at Kibaki's government, if you look at this government, no government has fought and sacked people who are involved in corruption than any other government.
Okay, so I would like to pose this question to both yourself and Honorable Madiwa. I hope he's still on the line with us.
Yes, I am.
Great. Kenyans are frustrated with this war of words we're seeing between Honorable Aden Duale and Raila Odinga, between Jubilee and ODM members, including Halake Wako, who's the CEO of the EACC. You know, and I quote, he says, the ongoing bickering will not help the country rein in corruption, essentially saying that this has become politicized. I'll start with you, Honorable Miduo. You know, when will this war of words end, and when do we start to see action even on the side of the opposition towards saying that if we're the government in waiting, that this is what we have done that's demonstrable?
Well, we exposed Eurobond, we exposed NYS, we exposed now, we are talking about the health money. So we are doing what is required of an opposition grouping. We have not, our conscience is clear. What is wrong? First of all, I want to correct my friend Honorable Duale, that it is not true that Murkomen cannot be summoned by the Gumbo Committee. There's no standing order that says that. So it is not good to lie to the public. These people are culpable, they must tell Kenyans. But listen to what Honorable Duale is saying. Honorable Duale is trying to say that when it comes to them, they are saying, let the facts come out. I mean, which other facts do you need if the auditor, if an internal audit has found members of the president's family? In fact, it is true that they can do all the business they want. That is a fact. But you cannot supply air and be paid. You know, there are people who are in that scandal who are very close to the president. And then there is mention of members of his family. He cannot keep quiet, and Duale cannot lie that his silence is good for the country. His silence, it is his job. He is sworn to protect our constitution. And the president must talk about the health scandal. In fact, he is talking about Governor Kingi. Governor Kingi has the same right under the Constitution. And as a governor, he said, here is corruption. Come and clean it up, or at least expose the facts. So to link Raila and Kingi through such careless talk, I really think is a show that the Jubilee government wants to take us down the path of rhetoric as opposed to action.
All right.
The buck stops with the Jubilee government. They have the responsibility to jail the governors and jail Uhuru's family and jail the deputy president, all these crooks who are wielding so much power. They are looting this country, is the fact.
Okay, and indeed, the buck stopping with the president. Allow me to ask this question because a lot of people...
Let me answer the first question.
Okay.
The question you put.
All right.
Whether politicization. Number one, I want to say, you know, Honorable Jacoyo kept on talking about the president's family.
Yeah.
The same Jacoyo, his brother is a CS Finance, Siaya County. Honorable Oburu Odinga's own son, brother to Raila Odinga, is the head of the procurement in Siaya County. I mean, you know, you don't talk about others when who is the deputy governor
It almost sounds like tit for tat.
No, what I'm saying
it honestly sounds like tit for tat.
It doesn't.
That it's happening on this side, but so are they.
No, from where you sit, the narrative they are carrying, they don't look at what they're doing behind their back in their counties. But let me say this, Yvonne. We must fight the value system in our country. Corruption has pervaded the public, the private sector. Corruption has pervaded the judiciary. It has pervaded parliament, where me and Honorable Jacoyo Midio are the leadership. It's in all societies. And I think I agree with you. We must give the institutions that are mandated, and also the judiciary, which all of us believe has slept on the job, to do their bit. Who started the politicization of corruption? Raila Odinga has no other business. Call a press conference. Let me give you a good example.
Isn't that the job of the opposition, though, to keep the country on its toes and raise the questions?
The story even you, the media, have made it, when you tell a lie so many times, it becomes true. Let me ask you today, 220 billion euro bond proceeds. The banks that are involved is the U.S. Federal Reserves, J.B. Morgan. You can imagine that kind of amount of money can disappear between the U.S. and Kenya Central Bank? Can that? Today, if you want to bank 1 million shilling to your account in Kenya, you must give reasons where you got the 1 million.
Are you then saying here that Eurobond was above board and all of the money came in?
There is no one single shilling of Eurobond lost.
All right.
This is clear propaganda.
Number two, let me finish. Jacoyo Midio.
Number two,
it's a little unfair because it's not, here
but let me finish. Number two.
Please, very quickly, because I think he wants to speak.
Okay, fine, let him speak.
Jacoyo, you'd like to speak?
No, first of all, if there was no money lost in Eurobond, why have they refused to let the Auditor General go and access Kenyan's accounts in New York?
All right, thank you. Would you like to respond?
Let me tell you. Even a child who is class 3, and that's why, I have no respect for the intelligence of the position. Even a 10-year-old Kenyan cannot comprehend. With the current money laundering laws we have in our country, with the U.S. Federal Reserves, with the U.S. Bank, J.B. Morgan, and the Central Bank of Kenya, you want to tell me 210 billion is stolen?
Okay, would you like to respond to Jacoyo's specific question, which is about the Auditor General not being allowed to go to New York?
But let me tell you.
We saw the President saying it at State House.
The Auditor General, the Controller of Budget, the Minister of National Treasury, and his peers came to Public Accounts Committee, and they said, and they presented documents showing no penny has been lost. I can provide that document to you tomorrow. This is just a mere propaganda. And the propaganda is, this government has achieved a lot in 3.5 years under Uhuru's leadership. From the standard gauge railway, to roads, to free maternity, to education sector, they have nothing to tell the people of Kenya 2017.
A lot of which...
All the narrative they had was the narrative of corruption.
Okay.
Now we have got them that they are more corrupt than even the national government.
All right, but let's say this. The President did chastise the Auditor General at State House at that summit, saying, Sasa huyu anaenda New York kutafuta.
No. The President challenged state agencies who were seated there. The Auditor General, the DPP, the EACC, the representative of the Chief Justice, all the 4 key state actors in the war against corruption, that they must up their game.
But he did criticize the Auditor General's visit to New York.
And the 2010 Constitution, Yvonne, if you listen to me, removed those powers from the current president and gave it to an institution which can only report to Parliament.
Okay.
No, but it is
Honorable Midio?
Yvonne, isn't it the same institution that gave the president the list, which was read, the president read last year to Kenyan Parliament? Now, when the Auditor General is denied the power to go and do his work, would he reasonably tell Kenyans that we take his word? Let me just say one thing, Yvonne. Jubilee government came to power when this country owed 1.8 trillion shillings. Now we owe 3.8 trillion. The money, he put it in perspective. Thika Road was only built with 22 billion shillings, the whole of Thika Road. So where have they been taking the money? This roads Duale is talking about, where are they? Where are the laptops? Where?
The laptops are everywhere. The roads are everywhere.
Everything they do is done with
Honorable Midiwo, though, we do know the digital curriculum has been launched across the country.
The roads are everywhere.
With the toys. The toys which I saw being given to some schools. Those are not computers. Really. I mean, tell Kenyans the truth. That was a scheme to steal billions from Kenyans, and they succeeded.
Okay, all right, okay. Yeah. I'd like us to close our discussion now because, the country watching is saying, well, okay, so there's all of this back and forth. There's all of this. If you say the president and his family cannot do business, but look at Oburu Odinga and that sort of thing is happening there. I understand your point.
No, that was just to show. That was just to show that what they're saying is not what they believe in.
Allow me to finish.
And Yvonne, let me say this. Number one, the Auditor General is an independent institution, not answerable to the president, to the executive. His budget is done by Parliament. Nobody, and I want to say it here, nobody stops Ouko from taking a flight from Nairobi to Washington to New York to go to the bottom. Nobody. The same for EACC, the same for DPP. Their budget is given to them by Parliament.
Okay.
But let me wind up by saying that our track record is very clear. You can see he's not even believing that the laptops have been rolled out, even in his own constituency game. He doesn't believe that roads are being done. Even where I come from, in all successive governments, they have never done a road. In all successive governments, the national grid has reached northern Kenya for the first time. The charges for electricity has come down. It's every Kenyan watching me can understand that. The connectivity has gone by more than 5 million extra Kenyans. The problem with the code is that they have nothing to tell Kenyans for them to convince them to get them the 2017 elections.
Okay.
The only narrative they had from 2013 till date was the corruption narrative. If we go back to corruption, you look at all those who talk about corruption. You know, I become sick when Gideon Moi talks about corruption. Gideon Moi, under the leadership of his father, was the worst time in the history of Kenya. I feel like putting off the TV when I hear, Musalia Mudavadi talking and Wanzo Watangula talk about corruption. For you to talk about corruption, you must first evaluate your human structure.
Okay.
Yes. What are you made for?
All right. I'd like Midiwo to give the closing comments.
First of all, Duale must be informed that my brother is not the CS Finance in Siaya. Oburu's son does not do procurement in Siaya.
Who's the CS?
People from Siaya County anyway. They have the same right. But having said that, if Honorable Duale is saying that they are doing well as a government, why has the economy lost 136,000 jobs only this year? In 2016, 136,000 jobs have been lost. Those were jobs created by Raila and Kibaki. If they are doing well, what is there to show for it? Really. I told you, Duale talks dangerously. When he criticizes Gideon Moi, Musalia Mudavadi, he cannot do that without adding William Ruto in it. He cannot. Duale cannot talk about Gideon Moi and leave out William Ruto, whose name is in every corruption scandal of our times. So really, give Gideon Musalia a break, Honorable Duale, please.
William Ruto, I think, because of everybody wants to mention William Ruto, but there's no Kenyan who has said William Ruto is mentioned in this and this. But anyway, I think in a nutshell, my dear, I think the war on corruption must be won at whatever it takes.
Okay, we have to leave it at that. Thank you very much. Honorable Aden Duale, who's Majority Leader in the National Assembly, as well as Honorable Jakoyo Midiwo, MP for Gem and Deputy Minority Leader, joining us on phone. Thank you for braving the cold weather, at the runway in Eldoret. Keep your thoughts coming in. From what you've heard today, which side convinces you that they are more committed to the war on corruption? Hashtag is Checkpoint at KTN News, at KTN Kenya, and at Yvonne Okwara. I thank you very much, sir, for being here with us.
Thank you very much.
All right, okay. So let's take a look at some of these numbers that are interesting in terms of the quantity of water it takes to produce foods in this country and around the world. And these are figures from the Kenya Water Week that concluded this past week. Now, it takes 13 liters to produce just one tomato, 135 liters for just one egg. Now, all of this is, going into the feeding of the chicken and so on. But it goes on to be even a little bit more mind-boggling. 200 liters for just one glass of milk and 650 liters for your favorite loaf of bread. And if you are a lover of fast food, then take a look at this figure, 2,400 liters for just one burger. Why is this important? Because it's good to start talking about how much water we're using, how much water we're wasting, and how much is actually needed. Now, this is quite a lot of water that is used to produce the foods that we love to eat every single day, but yet we waste it in some of the most simple ways. For example, every time you leave a tap running, it's estimated that you lose 6 liters of water per minute that tap is running. And the best part, or the worst part, that this happens a lot is while you brush your teeth in the morning, or as you do that before you go to bed tonight. It takes about, 2 to 3, 4 minutes? So that running the tap while you're brushing your teeth is 12 to 18 liters. Now, you think all of this is pretty mundane? Well, remember what the Cabinet Secretary for Water, Eugene Wamalwa, had to say, that it would cost 60 billion shillings to make sure that all Kenyans in the country have access to clean drinking water, and that the ministry is in deficit of about 1.2 trillion shillings. So next time you start to do that, think about the amount of wastage. And in fact, there's certain regulations that perhaps people are considering putting in the construction code, sewage, water recycling to be able to use on the farms. Costs quite a bit of money, but there are some companies that are doing it. Should that be a code now for all residential areas, commercial buildings? Some of them, some banks have taken this up. So when you think about 60 billion shillings that is required, when you think about this wastage and just how much water is used for agriculture and produce, you might want to start thinking about that, especially as you do this tonight. So please, turn off the tap while you're brushing your teeth, will you? And save us some water that is so desperately needed, not just in this country, but around the world. That's your number tonight. All right, so let's take you down memory lane as we do at every night at this point. Now, on the 28th of November, so this is just about a year ago, a Kenyan court ordered the government to arrest Omar al-Bashir. So let me take you down memory lane and remind you of how we came to this point in the first place. This application that went before Justice Ombija had been made by the International Commission of Jurists of Kenya. Why? Because just a year before this court ruling was made in 2010, you remember President Omar al-Bashir from Sudan was invited to and attended Kenya's promulgation of the Constitution in 2010. He was, of course, not arrested. And this, of course, started to open up, the talk about ICC and the fact that it doesn't have enforcing of the law. Let me remind you about President Omar al-Bashir, who has 2 warrants of arrest over violence in Darfur and has been charged with genocide and crimes against humanity, and to date remains at large, if you like, and he remains a fugitive of the ICC process. This happened a year ago, but a lot has happened from, this happened actually, in 2011. Now, a lot has happened between then and now, including the fact that President Uhuru Kenyatta and Deputy President, got their charges off at the ICC. But let's just remind you of what's happening now and why this is significant. A number of countries are either in the process of, or are thinking about it, or have made a vote to leave the ICC. Gambia, South Africa, Kenya, Burundi actually just passed that in its parliament, Namibia as well. So whether the ICC, it's important to remember where we've come from and where we are headed. Is the ICC losing legitimacy? Has it in fact lost legitimacy on the African continent? Good to remind you just where we have come in this process of the ICC. As lest we forget, this evening we're taking a short break. We'll be back with the day's sports news. National Volleyball Championship title after defeating rivals Prisons in a thrilling 5-set match at the Makande Gymnasium in Mombasa. Prisons began the match on a high note, seeking to cage the defending champions, taking the first set 25-21. Pipeline, however, were not to be deterred as they came back stronger in the second set, bagging it on a 25-17 scoreline. The seesaw continued as Prisons turned the tide, taking the set 25-21 before Pipeline forced a decisive fifth set after winning the fourth set 25-23. In the final set, Pipeline proved too strong as they won 15-9 to retain their crown. In the men's finals, Prisons reclaimed the national crown after defeating KPA in 3 straight sets. Africa cross-country junior silver medalist Ronald Kirui tore a strong filed to emerge the winner of the 12th edition of Tuskegee Wareng cross-country in Eldoret. Kirui clocked 28.03 minutes. Mukono settled for the second position in a time of 28.07 minutes, while Timothy Rono sealed the podium. Irene Cheptai won 10 kilometers to emerge the lady winner, clocking 31.15 minutes, beating former World Youth Olympic champion Gladys Chesir.
Cheptai, powering, you watched her running the 5,000. Nakwambia unakumbuka wakati wa trials watu kulikuwa naona wanariadha walilewa sijui kuna nini pale. Gladys Chesir katika nafasi ya pili. Chesir, one of the sensational athletes we have around. Anakuja mwanariadha ambaye anawakilisha taifa la Qatar. Aleki nakwambia Mturuki.
KDF Morans resurrected their hopes in promotion in the Kenya Basketball Federation League after getting a 67-63 win over Egerton Assassins to leave the Division 2 playoff series 1-0. The match played at the Nyayo Gymnasium saw the Morans take control with a 14-9 lead in the opening quarter. The second quarter, however, saw the Assassins edge the Morans with a 3-point margin on a 19-16 scoreline. Heading into the breather, the defense forces put out all their armor in the third quarter as they netted 21 points to their opponents, 11 before adding 16 more in the final quarter to emerge with a 67-63 win. In other matches of the day, Strathmore University defeated Egerton University 43-31, while Kisumu Lady Bucks thrashed their opponents Gladiators 72-55. All right, so it's time for my take tonight. Now, you may have heard of the Film, Stage Plays and Publications Bill 2016. You probably know it better as Ezekiel Mutua's Law. And with good reason. It appears that with this proposed law, the CEO of the Kenya Film Classification Board, Ezekiel Mutua's word will be final. And the law will not be confined to media houses. Listen, if you share pictures or footage on social media or through your phone, then you are also a target. You will need Mutua's permission to distribute or exhibit films, video games, or even commercials. If the proposed law is passed, then Ezekiel Mutua must approve all scripts for any film or documentary before it is shot. And note that there will be a policeman stationed at the location throughout the filming. The purpose is to monitor every step of the filming with a view to stopping it immediately he decides the crew is stepping out of line. If for any reason you do shoot something without his permission, each and every person involved in the film will be arrested and prosecuted. The fine for this offense has been set at 500,000 shillings or 4 years in jail. If this is not censorship, then I don't know what it is. But that's not all. If you are a theatre fan, be very afraid because this also concerns you. That stage plays will also be subject to this law. From experience, we know that Mutua is a self-appointed moral police officer. Whether he is justified or not is a matter for debate. But what is not debatable tonight is that in this case, he is certainly seeking to curtail God-given creativity. And that tonight is my take. Thank you for joining us this and every Sunday night here on Checkpoint. The conversation doesn't stop here. The hashtag is Checkpoint on social media. Thank you very much for watching our bulletin tonight. I do want to mention something great is coming up tomorrow. You don't want to miss it. 47 days of accountability. It starts tomorrow. In case you think corruption is at the national level, you wait until what we have to tell you about what's happening in your county. Is your money being used for your development according to your needs? 47 days of accountability starts tomorrow, and I'll be right here with you for that journey for the next 47 days. My name is Yvonne Okwara Matole. Our sign language interpreter was William Siller. Have a good night.